Muhammad? And she said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu Muhammad Rasulullah.
What does that mean?
It means I accept that there's only one God and that Muhammad is his messenger.
And she entered Islam.
Well, as far as I know.
That's what it means when you say
what
that.
it means. But because of his character and his action that went with it, that was important, you know. He was soft, he was gentle. At the same time, there were points where he was going to be tough. Even on his own followers, look what he did. One time they were in a hardship. They were being beaten down, they were being abused and insulted and tortured right in front of the holy sanctuary, right in front of the Kaaba, which is there in Mecca. And one of his companions said to him, you know, I wish you would pray and ask Allah, because they know his prayers will be answered. Just ask Allah, give us a victory. Let us at least fight back against these guys. Give us, you know. And he said, look at this. He's telling me to be patient. He's saying, you don't think about this, but the people before you suffered more than you. And here is a condition he's going to describe now to him about the early Christians, what they went through. He said they were tortured in such a way that they would rake their skin off with steel combs. They would take these iron combs and just rake their skin and just kill them with that. And that they would throw them to the animals and burn them alive and boil them and even put a saw in their head and cut them in half. These things he mentioned to that man to let him understand. You want to understand what it is to believe in the one God and really follow this message. People have suffered much worse than us. So we have to be patient. And they were patient. They were patient 13 years of the worst kind of abuse, being turned even out in the desert for a long period of time, and they were left to die. They migrated up to Medina, and the people tried to waylay them along the way just to kill them, just to get rid of them, because they believe in one God. And when they were in Medina, in this condition is where the verses come that tell them now they could go back and fight these guys and even kill them if they're killing you, but you must stop if they stop. That's to clarify the way that people mistranslate or misrepresent what's coming in the Quran. It was definitely that you could be able to fight now, but with these limits. But look at this. The character of Muhammad was so sweet and so gentle that when his wife talks about him, now you imagine that here he is, an important man in these days. Now we're going to be talking later in his life, and he's got so many responsibilities, so many things to do. And then she sees some men out in there throwing spears and in a contest and so on, and she says, I want to watch that. Well, in order for her to watch, because his wife needs to be sheltered from the people, and she has to stand behind him. Well, she likes this idea, so she's standing behind him, looking over his shoulder and watching them in the doorway of their home. And she had him stand there and stand there and stand there and stand there. She said she didn't even want to watch him, or she just wanted to see how long she could keep him standing there. But he didn't mind, and he used to run and play with her. And she said we used to race together, you know, and I used to beat him when I was younger. But when I got older, I got fat, and then he could beat me. These were some of the personal things that we know about him and his character, his kindness, sweetness, gentleness, and yet at the same time firm on this one point. There's really only one God. There's no compromise on that.
Can you tell us what could have driven a man to go through all this torture and all this persecution? What was his motive behind this?
Well, that's a very good question. It's an intelligent question. The motivation behind people, all people, is always the same thing. There's no difference between you and I and Prophet Muhammad or Jesus or Abraham or even Adam, our father Adam. All of us, peace be upon them, all of us, we have two motivators. And you can check this out with psychiatrists, they'll tell you the same thing. Recruiters in the military, salesmen, will all tell you the same thing. The two motivators for a human being is simple. First is the motivation for what? Protecting yourself from a loss. Nobody wants to lose. The fear of a loss is a motivator. And the hope of a reward or a gain, this is another motivator that all of us have. We want to gain, but at the same time we don't want to lose. This is key, because if I'm thinking that I could lose, I would rather hold on to that than take a chance on a gain. And people do this, logical people anyway, in the stock markets, investments and things, you'll see that same thing worked out in real life. But especially here, when a person has had a chance to actually get close to the paradise, which he did, and have an idea what's in the hellfire, which he did, then after that, nothing in this world is ever going to impress you again. Anybody that's ever had any experience, I've talked to people who had near-death experiences or what they call death experience, and they were brought back, and they talk about this, seeing this light, and they talk about this experience that they've had. They're never the same after that, because you have a motivator there. You understand that there's something happening here. This is real. This is not a joke. And so the motivation is there in front of you all the time. And I want to get the paradise. That's what I want to gain. And I sure as heck don't want to go to the hellfire. So I don't want to lose my chance at paradise, but I sure don't want to wind up in the hellfire. So this is strong motivation. Being close to God, being near Allah in the next life is the primary motivation behind every single Muslim. If anybody wants to know what is it that the Muslims want, what are they looking for, it's not something in this earth. It's something in the next universe, the universe of paradise. That's what we're looking for.
What are the benefits now for somebody who is, because we know that to enter into complete submission and surrender to the creator of the heavens and the earth, now you have to follow this last and final messenger. Now if you follow him, what are the benefits in this life and the hereafter?
Well, first of all, in this life you're going to have a much easier way to go, because there's some things that the creator, Allah, has revealed in Islam that we wouldn't know otherwise. For instance, how to eat and drink. One of the things very important that we do today is to sit down when we eat and drink. The doctors and scientists and lab specialists are going to tell you that a lot of the everyday problems that people are having in their esophagus, the hiatal hernias that they get and so on, could be avoided if people would simply sit down when they eat or drink. And this is a teaching in Islam. When you eat or drink, sit down. Believe it or not, that was taught to us 1,400 years ago by Muhammad, and we see today, look, oh, if we'd have done that, we'd have been way ahead of the game. And another thing, when we talk about cleaning your teeth, he used a toothstick and said, if I could make this an obligation on you, I would do so, but he wouldn't. And still, and what is the benefit here? Because if you're using that toothstick that he used, called miswak, what it does, it cleans the teeth, removes the tartar, the buildup that comes on there, but it doesn't destroy the enamel. And it actually takes care of the gums, keeps down periodontitis, and the tongue itself is protected with this, and a coating inside when you use it, even for your stomach. And all of this from a stick. We know this from that one thing, and so many other things too, even how to go to the bathroom. He taught us how to properly use the toilet and the facilities so that when we come away, we're clean. The hygiene was so important, and if you imagine 1,400 years ago, when we talk about hygiene, nobody can match the hygiene of the Muslims. Even our habit of washing that we do, and the ceremonial wash that we do before we pray, has been copied by doctors, and that's what they use when they do surgery. This can be proven by the doctors who formulated this concept 1,000 years ago in Spain, and they happen to be Muslim doctors.
Now these are some of the small details. Give us,
there are thousands.
Give us
Would
some
you like
major...
to know that we came up with some? I was going to do a contest a few years ago with the Muslim youth and let them come up with something I called Muhammad A to Z, and who could come up with the best one for A and B and C and go through all the letters. And I was wondering, would we have that many? When it was all over, we had so many, and it went beyond ABCs. It just was so many. We put up a website about it, MuhammadA2Z.com, and then it still got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I couldn't handle it. So I said, okay, A to Z, what his companions said, A to Z, what his character was, A to Z, and so finally we put up a new website, and it's called prophetofislam.com, and all of that stuff is there.
Everything is there.
Everything we did on that. But you'll never put everything about Muhammad in any one place. You will not be able to do that. You can try, but I am trying myself, and I said, I don't even have a tenth. I don't have even a half of a tenth of a percent of how much this man is known for, and things that he did, things that people said about him, and throughout the centuries, the effect that he's had on so many other people. And one simple man who lived in a simple a little room and on a dirt floor and slept on a little bamboo mat.
So everything we need to know in life, everything that we need to be successful in this life and the hereafter, did he bring for all of mankind?
Let me tell you what somebody said in 1970s. Michael Hart wrote a book, The 100 Most Influential Men in History of the World. That was the name of his book. 100, the ranking of the 100 most influential men in the history of the world. I think that's a big title. I think that's what it was. Michael Hart. Check it out, though. And in it, he puts Muhammad as number one. He said no human being had more influence on their society around them and future generations in the way of what we call secular and religion and government and he gave this long list and quite a bit about it. It's talking about Muhammad, and this is not a Muslim. And he received so much condemnation from other scholars, and he almost became defensive and wanted to put out another book and said, well, how about the most 100 in the last 100 years, or, let's get off the subject. Because he said, I can't deny that this man has had the most influence on people in general, on humanity, and the world itself. So I believe that that's something to consider. I wish that people would know that even people like Gandhi is very famous for his what? He was serving the people, he had a cause, and what he would do, he would give up a lot of his own for the sake of getting a message to the people. But he wasn't trying to lead them as a religious leader per se, but to overcome a political problem of the way that the people were being treated. The people in India were being horribly mistreated. And subhanAllah, look at this, he gets so much inspiration from who? He's quoting from Muhammad. He says, and we have it on the website, go read what he said. He said, I have come to conclude now in reading of Muhammad that it wasn't the sword that won over the people. It was the heart. And look how he begins to, oh my God, when he starts talking, this is Gandhi talking about Muhammad. And he says, when I came to the last volume and I was reading the end of the books, he said, I became sad because I wish that there was more to read about this great man.
Well, with that said, I hope that people take the opportunity to get to know this man, because...
Come to the website, the Prophet of Islam. You put it right there. prophetofislam.com.
With that said, I'd like to thank you for being on the show, and I hope everybody takes the opportunity to get to know this man who's been sent to the whole of mankind as a messenger with the last and final revelation, which is the Quran. So you can visit this website that Sheikh Yusuf Estes has mentioned. That said, thank you for being with us, Sheikh Estes. Assalamu alaikum, jazakallah khairan. I'd like to thank everybody who has been tuning into the Deen Show, and I encourage you all to get to know this man, the last and final messenger to mankind, the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. And if you've missed any of our shows, you can tune into thedeenshow.com. That's THEDEEN show, SHOW, all one word, thedeenshow.com. And we look forward to having you with us again next week as we bring you another hot topic. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you.